Brooch shield me from reproach? Can the purest diamond purify my name? And yet, of course, these trinkets are endearing. I'm also glad my sapphire is a star. I'd rather like a 20-carat earring. If I'm not yours, at least my jewels are. Enough. I'll take their diamond necklace and show my noble stuff by being gay and reckless. Observe how can feel.
And that was an exciting aria. That was The Glittering to Be Gay from Candide, sung by Marnie Breckenridge. Welcome to Music Matters. My name is Jason Tramm. We're streaming live here from the footsteps of New York City. Thank you for joining us for a unique podcast community where we explore the issues and challenges of the performing arts world as seen through the eyes of distinguished colleagues. Thank you for helping us grow. We just hit 1,425 subscribers on YouTube, and last night we celebrated our 1-year anniversary of Music Matters. In that time, we've done 154 shows, and we're delighted that you can join us today. It's really exciting to watch people join us and to watch the community grow. So we have these conversations with artists, and I'm amazed by how creative the creative industry has become during the COVID era, and it's just so great to hear these stories of innovations and self-discoveries. Miss Marnie Breckenridge, a soprano who has sung at the world's greatest opera house, and she sung roles, she's a light coloratura soprano, and in 2020 she won a Dora Award for outstanding performance by an individual in an opera. She has graced many of the world's leading opera houses and stages and has worked with a huge variety of the greatest composers in the world active today. So I'm so delighted she can join us. Welcome, Marnie.
Thank you so much for having me. Such a pleasure.
It's a pleasure. Always great to meet new artists. And boy, you have such a huge range of repertoire. How far ahead of time do you get some of these roles? It must be really interesting to learn some of these really difficult roles.
Yeah, some of the newer repertoire is definitely what I would call difficult. And, it just kind of depends on what it is. I've done, lots of kind of more melodic music that's, not as angular. And I've done some pretty tough stuff too. Serialism.
From Bernstein to David Little to everything in between. Really an amazing Jake Heggie to pretty much everything. Really wild variety.
Yeah, and Luna Pearl-Wolf and I just worked together on a fabulous piece called Jacqueline, about the life of Jacqueline Dupre, and she wrote it for Matt Heimovitz, cellist, and myself, and it's just a duo drama, just the two of us. And at first, she, I guess, calls her music, serialism. It's modern classical. At first, it was quite difficult for me, just the way it was organized, and then once I caught on, it was just part of my DNA. But there have been experiences sometimes where it's taken me, a minute to learn things.
Well, I'm sure as you do it more in your career, as you debut and premiere more roles, it must take, you have to get used to the language of the composer. They're all so different.
Yes. Each person definitely has their language, and it's so fun to kind of jump into their brain and try to figure out, what it is that they're trying to say with their, just the organization of the tones in their head. How do they hear things, and then how is it, being brought across to the audience? It's or to the singer and interpreters. It's pretty wild. It's a great process. I love that process.
So tell us about your artistic journey. Did you always know you wanted to be an artist?
Well, no, I didn't always know. I mean, I always sang in school as a kiddo, in choirs, and music teachers would give me solos in choir, and I really enjoyed that. But I was quite nervous and always had stage fright, and still do sometimes, which is interesting. Other times not. But so I didn't really think that this would be a professional thing for me. I went to college and was pre-medicine for a few minutes, and it did well in high school as far as science and math and whatnot, but it was a struggle for me. I had to work hard to get those grades. I had to kind of really organize my time to do well, whereas it was much easier for me to kind of be an actor and singer and do these creative things. But I wasn't sure that that was kind of an appropriate career for me, because of how I was raised. When I was raised Seventh-day Adventist, and in a beautiful family, very open-minded and liberal for Adventists. But we had church school, and we had a lot of, you get messages like, this is an appropriate career and this is not an appropriate career, and I didn't really even fathom a career in the arts. Like, it didn't even kind of cross my mind until the end of college, when I was in a terrible car accident and broke my femur and kind of had a little brush with death. And I was in the hospital with this rod fully through my femur, and blood transfusions, and
wow,
just the full thing. And I went, oh, I see what they mean when they say life is short, and I really want to sing, so how am I going to try this? And I didn't think that it would be appropriate within Adventism because of the Sabbath laws. It's a lot like Judaism, in that there's a Friday night Sabbath, sundown to Saturday sundown, with no work. And Herbert Bloomstead is a famous Seventh-day Adventist, and Shirley Verray also was.
Really?
And so many singers, actually. You kind of do some uncovering.
I know a few opera singers who are Seventh-day Adventists as well.
Yeah,
a couple of my colleagues and they have a wonderful singing tradition in the Seventh-day Adventist Church as well.
Yeah, it's a wonderful church. It's a wonderful religion, and I really learned a lot from that journey, for sure. So anyways, it was graduation time, and I was, it was a week before graduation that I got in this accident. I was in a wheelchair at graduation, and I still sang, ironically, "When you walk through a storm,
Wow.
hold your head up high." I mean, that was the song that was on the docket, and then here I am, crutches in a wheelchair, and drugged out on Demerol and Percocet for pain, or whatever it was at the time, and kind of eyes half masked, "When you walk." So it was pretty ironic. But from there, I just kind of recovered for a year, and then called up the San Francisco Conservatory, because at the time I was living at my parents' house in the Napa Valley, and I called up the conservatory and said, "Hey, I might want to do a master's in music." They were like, "Okay, come audition, let's see." And it was 3 weeks into the school year had already started, and I just thought, I'm just gonna, if they accept me, I'll try it out. If it doesn't work out, I can always do something else. And it just kind of took its own path, and I was lucky to be able to get cast in things and kind of get little hints from teachers and coaches that, yeah, you're on the right path. You've got a lot to learn, a lot to catch up on, but keep going.
The artist way is full of learning, and getting your stage, getting your sea legs on stage, learning the roles, getting your technique solid. It's quite a process, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is. And thank goodness for, art, young artist apprenticeship programs. I did kind of this small one years ago. Blanche Thiebaum had one in San Francisco for girls, and it was incredible. And Jenny Rivera Rice did that. That's where I met Jenny. Jenny's now head of Long Beach Opera, and other singers have come out of that program. And then I did other small programs, and the one kind of major apprenticeship I did was with Santa Fe Opera, which was so enjoyable, and really met a lot of people that helped the trajectory of my career from there forward. So then I ended up with a master's of music, and just studied and did a lot of local work with companies in the Bay Area. West Bay Opera, North Bay Opera, East Bay Opera, Opera Parallel wasn't there quite yet. And then I moved to New York for 8.5 years and came back with 2 babies and a dog. And my husband and I had been married here in California and then moved to New York. And then, of course, once we moved to New York, I was getting tons of work back in San Francisco. So
of course, isn't that the way it works?
Yeah. And then we moved back here to San Francisco about 4+ years ago, and I've been working in New York, but it's been a great relationship with both states, and hopefully will continue. Of course, this pandemic was not fun.
No, not fun for anyone. This entire industry was, we all took about a 1.5 pause, right? It was like, okay, I say everyone's become a philosopher during the COVID period. We've all had so much time to think. We're always so used to traveling and working and running to rehearsals, and then everything kind of slowed down. And boy, it's certainly changed all of our lives for a bit. And now we're getting ready to start opening the next chapter.
Yeah, I hope so. I really hope so. And I hope that we can go forward in this next chapter with more ease and more understanding about what we need to say as artists and what our responsibility is as artists who are these storytellers for composers who are trying to make a difference with, a lot has happened in the last year with, the Me Too movement, Black Lives Matter, with
Absolutely.
the political unrest, and, what are we going to do about these two opposing sides in politics in our country? And, how can we kind of get to the root of, I think, what we all want as humans is, a good life for each person. Everybody deserves that. So how do they find that in their own realm? And I don't believe in the idea that there's not enough for everyone. I don't believe in that. I think there's enough for everyone.
And the arts can be a natural bridge to help heal those divides and help heal those challenges.
Yeah, I think so. But it's interesting how it seems as a country we don't totally value the arts as much as we value, banking institutions or, and banking institutions.
Sports institutions.
Sports, yes. And so we need all of it. We need all of it to create the whole and not just one part.
We've certainly made the arts feel like, we talk about the essential workers. As a conductor, I certainly didn't feel like an essential worker. I did continue my teaching, but boy, all my conducting stopped, and it was, I kept my community groups together, but the professional work really just was ground to a halt. And it's, boy, we need to get that started up again and remind people that the arts really make us more human. When live performance stopped, we really lost a lot.
We did. And we lost with that live performance, the live vibration, the actual sound wave that you feel when you're near a singer or when you're in the audience and you feel the palpable energy of everyone in that symbiosis with the person on stage who is giving you their full sound waves, and you literally feel it. And it's hard to feel that through Zoom.
Impossible, actually. You get some of that. Yeah. You get the idea, the gist of it. Yeah, it's like the high def broadcast. It's wonderful, but it's not the same. I want to be in the hall. I want to feel how many decibels is coming at me. I want to feel the sound over the orchestra. What makes opera great? Yeah, that is what makes it great. And being able to enjoy it with the other people nearby who are going there for an experience. They're going there to open a synapse in their brain, or to open a window in their heart, or to be able to find a moment alone to just cry and experience the wash of that beautiful sound, or the empathy of or sympathy of what the person on stage is going through. To find your first roles post Young Artist Program. What were some of your first roles? And did modern music start early in your career? Is that something that you kind of developed in towards?
I definitely developed in towards it. Some of the first roles were, right out of the conservatory, I auditioned for Lotfi Mansouri at San Francisco Opera to do an acting role in Die Fledermaus. And he cast me, and then I ended up getting Papagena and Magic Flute a couple of years later, and then Inez and Il Trovatore, and kind of got my feet wet pretty early on with San Francisco Opera. And at the time I was singing at these smaller companies, so I was doing Musetta in La Bohème and Gilda and Rigoletto and Lucia di Lammermoor. I sang Lucia di Lammermoor at Indianapolis Opera, West Bay Opera, Mobile Opera in Alabama. I've gotten asked to do other Lucias, but have never been able to fit it in with the modern stuff. So no, the modern definitely came later. But ironically, the first opera that I ever performed in, actually I should say second, was Cunegonde and Candide. And then that has kind of been a little stalwart for me, a little bread and butter, which has been great because
people just love that aria, that opera. It's such a Bernstein is such a pleasure. He's a fascinating man.
Yeah, and the just everything he wrote in between the lines with all that music too, just genius. So yeah, it's been a journey, and then I think what happened, I don't remember exactly how Jake Hagee helped when I was still just out of the conservatory. He would have me come over to his house in San Francisco and sing through some of the roles that he was writing. And, and then he would cast me in little, concerts around town. And so I kind of started to realize that I needed to up my game with sight reading, because I really didn't do that in college. I was a real late bloomer in every way because I had spent so much time in science and everything else, literature and whatnot. So Jake kind of got me into it. And then I got an opportunity to do, I think it was Orphée was my first one, the Philip Glass Orphée with Opera Parallel. And I sang the princess in that. And that kind of went, that was my first Philip Glass opera. And it was a little bit difficult to learn at first. And then I started just kind of developing a taste for it and an understanding that I could really be more of the type of actress I wanted to be in these roles, kind of more chewing up the scenery than, having to be kind of a perfect replica of, how Maria Callas sung it or how Joan Sutherland sung it. I always felt like I was trying to level up to this perfectionism, and I could do it sometimes, but not all the time. And with modern opera, I was able to just kind of release into the character more, and then the voice and all the technique would work, and it was all there. But I wasn't trying to measure myself up against anybody else. And I also am a gifted mimic. So if I would hear somebody sing an opera role, I would try to sing it like them. But if it was a new piece of music, I had to sing it like me, because I had nothing to...
Interesting. It's very interesting how you take away the centuries of performance practice, and you get to really make your own decisions on so many things that as we're all a mimic to some point. When we learn the roles, we have to be you have to get your historical parameters. You've kind of listened to a lot of recordings, and eventually you make it your own. But it's fascinating to hear that someone do the process where you have to do it yourself.
Yeah, it's a great process. I hope everybody has an opportunity to do that at some point, because there is so much kind of liturgy. There's so much music, in our TV commercials and in church situations and, in graduation ceremonies, you start to, everybody becomes part of the same vernacular of song. And so you've heard it somewhere before, but when it's kind of fresh and you've never heard it and you have to figure out every little note, then I knew I wanted to mainly focus on modern music when I did Dog Days with David T. Little and Royce Vavrick. That kind of changed my whole life. And I had just had my second child, who was quite young, and it was a juggle to play the mother in that role. And we were going out to Montclair Peak performances in Jersey from Manhattan, daily on the train. And, but the experience in working with Robert Woodruff was amazing. I mean, it was a Beth Morrison production. Love Beth, love everything she does. So that really was when I got the bug, and I was like, this is it. I got to do more of this. And it just, it led to more cool experiences with other composers calling me and saying, hey, I've got this song, you want to try it out? And it's been a blessing and a gift. And, I just tried to stay open. I think I, chastised myself for years because I turned down an opportunity to do Christine in Phantom of the Opera in the San Francisco production when I just graduated from the conservatory. But I didn't know what I was doing yet, and all the teachers were saying, "Oh, you may never learn how to sing opera. If you take this, you'll have to change your voice." But I wish I had just said yes and just tried it. It could have led to some fun Broadway stuff. But then I think, but maybe I would not have ended up here in this modern classical music had I gone that route. So who knows how it all works? But I'm just grateful for any and all of the opportunities that I have had. And I love, 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 love working with living composers and, asking them, well, what did you mean by this? How do you want us to sing this? What's the impetus? What's the story behind this? And then,
we certainly can't reach out to Puccini and say, why did you write it this way in that phrase, right? We can't, without a seance, we can't make that connection.
Yeah, exactly.
So what are some of the exciting parts about premiering a role that's written? Now, a lot of these roles, did the composers change them for your voice? I mean, we go back in time when Mozart used to come to a production, he would save some of the arias until he heard the singers and custom tailor the arias specifically for those singers. That's got to be really interesting to be a part of that process.
Yes, and it definitely does happen. There have been times when I've said to a composer, oh gosh, I'm sitting here in the passaggio for like 5 pages. Can we vary it a little bit? And they love that. They're like, yes, of course. Oh my goodness. And each soprano is different too, except most of you sopranos out there, we don't like middle E, do we? No, we don't like that note. but it's an effective note, and that's why composers love to write in E and E flat, but you make it work. Yeah. But I did have, speaking of E, an eval on a high C. I was supposed to say the word C, and I just told the composer, I said, can we make it like just ah, or saw, and he was like, oh my goodness. And anytime I can work with a composer, I have this great little chart that William Hicks, a fantastic coach and conductor.
Hicks, sure.
William is just really a genius. He worked with Pavarotti, he's worked with, so many wonderful singers. And he has this kind of little chart of, E vowel to up to F, and then F sharp is a schwa, and G is an ah. And then as you get up higher, depending on your voice, it may go to an ah. This is for the soprano range, So just keeping little things like that in mind and teaching that to composers, they're like, this is brilliant. I wish I'd known this 10 years ago when I started writing for the voice,
The art of vowel modification. It's a real thing.
Yes. And American Opera Projects has a great program that the composers in the voice, and they, have singers work with composers and say, this works, this doesn't work. Don't make your mezzo be in her passaggio there for too long, And I think that's such a fun way of going about, making new music.
Do you have any projects coming up with some of these composers, or new works being written that I'm sure there was some stuff shelved over the COVID period, but what are some projects on the horizon?
Yes. So the one I'm doing next is by Gordon Getty, and it's called Goodbye, Mr. Chips. It's based on the book and the novel, and it's been wonderful. We've been doing workshops, and Mr. Getty has said, yes, go ahead and modify that. Oh, we'll change that, Oh, you don't like that note there? Let's move it here. It's been wonderful. And so that's the next project. And then I'm working on some of my own songs, variations on Broadway tunes. So not my own composed songs, but I'm working on an album of, I did a Christmas album last year, which was only 4 songs. That was one of the things I did during the pandemic, and I'm going to add to that. And so I'm trying to get those recorded, and then Matt Heimovitz and I are trying to find a moment in our schedule to record Jacqueline, the piece that we did at Tapestry Opera last year by Luna Pearl-Wolf and Royce Fabric.
And this is just for cello and for soprano?
Just cello and soprano. And it's a duodrama about Jacqueline Dupre, and there's a couple clips on YouTube, I think. It's really a tour de force for both the singer and cellist, and Luna and Royce wrote it for me over the last, we've been workshopping it and working on it for the last, 3 years, I think. Yeah.
Well, that'll be exciting to watch that come to life, right? After all that work and that dedication, and Boy.
We had the performance, and then right after that was COVID. So we had planned to tour it, and we're lining up some other venues, but that all fell through. So hopefully that will come back. And then Robert Patterson wrote these beautiful songs, The Four Seasons, and he just released that CD and I'm on that as summer songs. I'm the soprano as summer, and then he has a mezzo for the autumn, a tenor for spring, and a baritone for winter. So that's new. And then, also, I recorded, over 20 songs by Henry Mollicone. He wrote that opera, The Face on the Barroom Floor, that they did at Central City almost every year for a good 10, 15, maybe longer years there. And we had recorded his songs a long time ago, and we hadn't had a chance to get him edited because I was having 2 babies in New York, and he was, in fact, a lot of the recording, I was just, gigante pregnanto. I mean, it was like, I think I was 9 months pregnant when we did about 10 of the songs, so there, but we've been editing them, and Henry's in remission for cancer right now. So we're, really hoping to get this done soon, because he's doing great, by the way, but he's like, Marnie, we've got to get these done because, especially after COVID, who knows what can happen or how.
Who would have thought? Who would have thought that that the whole industry and the whole world could be affected this way and basically shut down, and have to reevaluate how we make art. But so how did you come to terms with the COVID challenges, and what are some things you learned about yourself during this period?
Wow. Well, of course, at first it was pretty disappointing because, every day I was getting cancellations, and I was helping my children with their schoolwork online, and that was a real adjustment. And so that, that 4 to 5 hours a day of just quiet time and getting stuff done and getting stuff learned and, was gone. But it taught me so much about patience and about being in the moment and about enjoying my life while I have it right now, because you just don't know what can happen. But it also got me clear about what roles I want to do for the next, however long I'm going to be gifted to still be singing. It got me much more clear about what I wanted to put out into the world. And one of those things was, making these recordings on my own. I want to have some, posterity of sound for my children, so a couple Christmas tunes, and I want to get some Broadway tunes out there, songs that I love. And I'd also love to do, more art song, and I'd like to do an opera aria CD, but it's money. It's finding the, resources, all that stuff. So I don't think I have that part figured out, but I do have the part figured out that I just want to tell stories and say things that are uplifting, that help people. I am a feminist, and I want to make sure that women's voices are heard, and that we, make room for everybody's voices, everyone. And to tell stories that change the world or open our eyes in some way, so that we are not just so worried about, I sang here and I sang there, and or I'm just making money doing this, and I'll take that role just to make money. I need that too, of course, to support my family, but I want to affect change if possible, just help raise vibrations. And I sound like,
thank you so much for sharing that. Yeah, it's so important that artists to make that impact on society, not just singing, but also singing roles that resonate with you personally, and that mean something. It's so easy for opera. Some people, I hear this a lot, that opera is like a museum piece, that it just sits on a shelf and dusted off. And with all the current operas, we're going to see a lot of different types of operas and new voices included, because I think that's what part of what this period is going to do, is add so many new voices to the mix.
Yes, I hope so. I mean, absolutely. It's time. It is past time,
We're seeing shakeups in administration. We're seeing new faces and voices in that, and I'm seeing a lot of my friends get positions. Who, it's going to be exciting. I mean, there has to be changes. I mean, things. I don't think everything was perfect before the pandemic, but it's certainly the pandemic revealed like the challenges we all face in the arts.
Yeah, absolutely. And there are so many stories out there. There are so many ways to elevate humanism and thought. There are so many ways to do that. So we need to hear it from everybody, every single person who wants to be part of the fruit basket. Should have voice, and it'll be really great to see more of that change coming.
It is certainly exciting to watch the changes in operas as they happen in real time, and I can't wait to see what your next chapter is going to be. So, what was your last live performance, and what are you coming up on the immediate docket?
Okay, well, there's two last performances. One was getting to sing a couple songs for a birthday party for Joan Baez, which was pretty fun. She had asked Opera San Jose, which I'm, on the peninsula here in San Francisco Bay Area, and she had asked them to send some singers to her house. And my friend is Maya Karani is part of their artistic fellowship program right now, and she was unavailable. And so asked me kind of last minute the night before if I could sing. And I was like, yes, because I love Joan Baez and had years ago gotten an opportunity to sing with Joan in a little show in San Francisco called Teatro Zinzanni. And I was covering for my good friend for just a week. Kristen Clayton was playing the diva in Teatro Zinzanni. And I got to cover for her and sing with Joan Baez every night. So I wasn't sure if Joan would remember.
How special is that? That must, worlds colliding, right? That must be really neat.
It was really neat. And, she told stories backstage of, some of her time with Bob Dylan. And we were asking her tons of questions, And she was doing yoga every night after the show. And I had no idea how old she was then. She's 80 now. And she looks about 60, if that. And she said, mind, body, spirit, mind, body, spirit. And she was doing the yoga. And I started doing yoga right after that. I thought, if she can look that good.
She's on to something there. You just know it.
And I had just worked with Opera San Jose in March, where they did this thing called Four Dialogues, where they had these 4 pieces with couples. Actually, sorry, I sang in the piece called Four Dialogues by Ned Rorem. And it was 3 opera pieces that were these little short pieces, one by Tom Ciapullo and Ned Rorem. And the other one, oh my goodness, it's escaping my brain right this second. But we filmed these little vignette. They were so great. We rehearsed them, did the staging, costumes, everything, and filmed it and got our best take. And then they put it into a movie, and it was really, really, really cool. So that was March. So, we went through, everybody had COVID, restrictions, and we wore masks the whole time. And then we took them off just for the performance and signed things. And, at that point, a couple of us had already been partially vaccinated, but they handled it so well. And I love to see what some of these new opera companies, Corey Dastur is a new director of Opera San Jose, and she has just been shaking it up and doing some really, really great work. We've seen it from a lot of companies that are trying to reinvent.
It's exciting to see what these companies come up with, and California's always been at the vanguard of that, and I think that's going to continue as we move forward. I look forward to seeing what our colleagues on the left coast do.
Yeah, I hope so. I feel like the left coast and the right coast are kind of very similar in so many ways, but there's more of I was going to say there's more of an operatic tradition in New York because of the Met, but no, San Francisco Opera upholds that. And so does LA,
Absolutely. So did you do a lot of online concerts? So everyone dealt with the pandemic so differently. We've had so many opera singers on this show, and I just love the resiliency of the different singers. One singer, I think it was Jennifer Rowley, has an active TikTok presence, and one's doing this and one's doing that, and Zoom concerts, and some did no concerts and just studied their languages and learned new roles. Everyone dealt with this so differently. What was your approach, and how did it wind up for you?
Yeah. Oh, well, that's harder for me. I am one of those people that has to be arm twisted to post, because there's like little person in me that says, well, it's just so vain to do that, and it's egotistical, and it's like, oh gosh, but it's part of this career now. You really have to put yourself out there. And I have seen friends, careers really be launched by doing such a great, social media campaign for themselves. I did a little of that. I was asked by opera companies to sing little snippets of things and post it, and learning curve was kind of steep for me to get the camera going and the angles, and
me too. It's a challenge.
Really right, like having to record it and then make it look like it's so easy, so there were definitely some of those, and fundraisers, a happy birthday to Harvey Milk. We were supposed to do the opera by Stuart Wallace, Harvey Milk, with Opera Parallel, and that fell through because of the pandemic. It's postponed to 2022. We were hoping it would be postponed to this summer, but it didn't. So a birthday for that and various other things. I guess my main thing was just getting these recordings going, and trying to do a little updating on website and stuff. But that's a hard thing for me. I'm really trying to be better about it. A friend of mine, you should just post on Instagram, Opera Mom, and do funny things and sing opera while you're grocery shopping. And I was like, oh yeah, I'm sure the people in my town will love that when I'm just shopping avocado, like, and I guess, there's banality in that people love, and that's why anything goes on TikTok. Power to you people, if you can have a following. I would love to, I guess, but I don't know. I always feel so timid.
Everyone's got to do it their own way, right? I mean, some people have that personality that just naturally are like that, and some people just, are more, more real. And like, I like a lot of separation. I've got children. When I'm home with my children, I like to spend time with them. I don't like to put a lot of cameras on. But when I'm doing promotional stuff, it's something else. It's. But some people just are born, out there and have 20,000 Instagram followers, and I'm just amazed.
It is amazing. And that's, I think, kind of where we are going as a culture. And so I'm on board, but I'm not in the fast lane of that. And I need to probably try to pedal to the metal a little bit more on that. I think I shall try.
What helps me with all my social media accounts is my teenage children. They're so good at that. I mean, I didn't even want to do an Instagram page. I'm like, I have 5,000 friends on Facebook, and I do lots of stuff there. Like, that's for old people, Dad. I'm like, okay. So my son made me watch a video on how to post on Instagram, because it's totally different. And then the other one's like, now we have to learn TikTok. I'm like, I'm not learning TikTok. You're going to learn TikTok. You're 18. That'll be easy for you.
Right on. That's nice to have your minions who can do it.
Well, they grew up with this, and they're so used to it, and it's so seamless for them. And that's why we started to do the streaming platform on YouTube. And it's been wonderful just to get using the social media to spread the word and to put the positive message of what artists are doing. It's been a lot of fun because it gives us an audience. Anyone can go on there and watch it.
Thank you for doing that. Thank you, because we need your voice. We need platforms like this for people to go, oh, that's who that person is, or, and you to bring to light what people have been struggling with. And, it's interesting. I mean, you always hear that thought in the back of your mind, well, if you want to be rich, don't be an artist, and then, but that there are artists who are successful. And so you think, well, I want to be successful, and I am successful, and you do all the right things and, tick all the boxes and show up prepared and do your work. And sometimes there's also kind of luck and who knows what involved, and so what does success mean to you? That's another thing I think that through this pandemic it's really kind of been right in my face that our country really values money as success. They say, oh, he or she is successful, meaning that they make a lot of money. And there is nothing wrong with making a lot of money. I want to make all the money I can. I want to give it to arts organizations. I want to, keep modern music alive. I'd like to write a $100,000 check to, Opera Parallel and Beth Morrison Productions. That would make my life worthwhile. There's nothing wrong with that. But to call a person successful based on that is just, it's so yucky. And I wish there was a better balance for all of us. artist, because it is a sacrifice. I mean, it's a joyful sacrifice, but it does take a lot of discipline and a lot of, hard work, to
constant work too, constantly reviewing, checking the voice and studying, training, learning the new roles. But it's never ending.
Yeah, it's never ending, which is wonderful, because I think that is what keeps people young, keeps your synapses firing, keeps your brain, figuring out new pathways of how to, present something, or if you're playing a character that you've never had any of the same impetuses of that character, and then you all of a sudden have to act like that, like, I don't know how to do that. So you have to pick it apart. That's the fun stuff. Like, that's...
We have our first question from the audience. Steve from Long Beach, in your neck of the woods, or not too far. He asks, what's the hardest role you've had to play? That's a tough question, I know, because there's so many different ways a role can be difficult. So
yeah. And what does hard mean? Yeah. Well, I would say the most challenging to date has been this Jacqueline, that I hope that the world gets to see sometime soon, because it's 2 hours of me singing and the cello playing, and it sounds like a long time, but it goes by like this, because it's just so well put together. But it's difficult musically. I'm starting with pitches just out of nowhere, and making sure that I don't have perfect pitch. I think I've kind of developed a relative close to perfect pitch from all of this modern music I've been doing, but I was never one of those natural perfect pitch people. But I think I'm a little closer now. I don't know. Ask the composers. They're like, no, she's not. She can't. She has not perfect pitch. But I try. So I would say that Jacqueline, but once it was in me, I mean, it's just now part of my DNA, and it's so satisfying. I really hope. And both of my children came to see that in Toronto in 2020, in February, and it was their little February break, and we all holed up together in this hotel, and they saw the dress rehearsal, and then they saw the opening night, and they wanted to come back again. They loved it so much, and they've seen in everything from Candide to Orphée, the Médée by Mio, and a wonderful Jake Hagee piece that he just wrote. So they've seen me kind of in all these different roles, and they said that is their favorite, and it's their favorite opera they've ever seen. Why?
That's amazing.
I think just because it just works musically, and even though it's hard, it just, or musically difficult, it's just works. It's hard to describe, but Luna.
I can't wait to learn this music and to listen to it. I listened to a little bit of the clips, and I can't wait to see this come together. It's amazing how creative a composer can be, to take just one cello and one voice and then weave that web and make a story come out of that. I think that's going to be amazing to check out.
Thank you. I hope you can. Yeah, I hope it does what we think it can do, as far as that energy and motion, and telling that story.
Now, tell us about the Dora Award that you won for that role in 2020.
Oh, well, there's this Dora Award up in Canada, and they award it to an outstanding performance each year, and there were some pretty heavy hitters in our category, like Sandra Rodanovsky and Tamara Wilson, and so that I mean, I love them, so I would have given the award to them, but but it felt good to kind of be recognized, because I have kind of been in this modern music world, and it was put into the same category as the big the Canadian Opera Company, and so that felt really fun. But it's an award, that this committee, I should find out. You put a little what it stands for. But yeah, so that was a big honor, and Matt was also nominated in the same category for his performance, because even though he was
he's half
just
the professions you, and that it's amazing how a composer can make so much substance out of one instrument. I mean, that just really shows the mastery of the composer, and incredible.
He was acting too as a cellist. He was, because I don't play the cello as well as Jacqueline Dupre or Matt Heimovitz. So, Matt he played the cello as an extension of my psyche. So I had this closest relationship in Jacqueline's life was with her cello, and she was married to Daniel Barenboim, and there's that movie Hillary and Jackie, and rumors about, her sister kind of being her best friend, but then also maybe flirting with Barenboim while she was sick with MS. There's rumors, so we tried to weave all of that in, but Matt as the cello was playing her psyche, her expression, her music. So sometimes I was kind of on him as if I was playing or behind him, and other times just kind of channeling him in my mind. So it was done very cleverly, and they did a good job. Yeah.
What are the plans to take this to bring this? Yeah, the challenge with modern music is a lot of times, I guess you know this more than anyone, you'll do a production, you work so hard, it takes so many hours of learning and coaching and put it together, and then the staging, and then you do it once and the production doesn't get relaunched. I hope this one has a great big life and gets performed by a lot of different companies.
Yeah, I hope so too. We're working on it. Yeah, we're working on it. So hopefully that will come back and we'll get to do it, and we'll hopefully get the recording going this year and get that out there.
We'll put good YouTube vibes out there and spread it into cyberspace.
Love it. Love it.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today. How can people find out more about you, what's coming up, what you've got on the docket? How can we find out more about you? And if people want to reach out to you via social media, what are your channels?
Sure. Yeah. So Marnie Breckenridge on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter. And then I have a website, marniebreckenridge.com. So it's all together, MarnieBreckenridge. Why didn't I shorten my name? Why didn't I just go Marnie Breck? Well, I guess I'm a stickler for details, so I kept my name as it is. But yeah, but reach out. I would love to, hear from you and to, if you have ideas too, people out there listening, of how to keep modern music alive, or how to, integrate some of these people who are doing new things with, maybe some of my art or somebody else's art. I'd love to be a connector for that, and I'd love to be a participant in that. So, let's talk.
And I encourage people, go see live music when it comes back. Support your local organizations, your professional organizations. They need your support. It's so important. With a strong, vibrant art scene, we all win.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. It really, and it's been proven over and over again, hasn't it? With children and their educations, and the ones that have a little music, they do better in math, and the ones who have a little music do better at social.
Also, when they go into their careers, they have more humanity because they understand art and emotion, and they can connect with their emotions. That's what the beauty that art provides. Not just the people that go into it for a living, like yourself and I, but people who just make that a part of who they are.
Yes, and be informed by that. Absolutely.
Marnie, thank you so much for spending time with us, and I wish you every success as you go back to your performing career, and I can't wait to see you perform live.
Likewise. Thank you so much. Such an honor. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us on Music Matters with Jason Tramm. Please remember to subscribe to us on YouTube and smash that bell icon for the most up-to-date information on upcoming guests and topics. Thank you so much, and remember, keep music alive.